So, Tommy Robinson, the former leader of the English Defence League, well known for his activism and journalism, has joined Advance UK. Now, Advance UK was set up by Ben Habib after he was removed by Nigel Farage's deputy leader. So back when Richard Tice was the leader of Reform from 2020 to 2024, early 2024, Ben Habib was the deputy leader. Then Nigel Farage came in, moved Richard Tice to deputy leader, and got rid of Ben Habib. Now, one of the reasons why Nigel Farage got rid of Ben Habib was because he was saying how Reform should democratise and allow more internal transparency and internal elections and so on. And Nigel Farage didn't really like that because for him, everything has to be about him. He wants to be the centre of attention. He wants to run his party with an iron fist, with it being impossible for him to be removed. Yeah, and so Ben Habib had to go. And so since Ben Habib was removed from Reform have gone from okay to bad. They're not, you could say bad to worse, but, you know, they're still better than Labour and the Conservatives. But, you know, Nigel Farage was saying how he believes it's politically impossible to deport illegal immigrants and that it's not his ambition to do it anyway. He's saying how we have to make peace with Islam because the demographics mean that Muslims have a rapidly exploding population, and so if we don't embrace Islam into British politics, we're going to lose. And I mean, he's not wrong, but the solution isn't to change what we believe in to please Muslims. The solution is to remigrate millions of foreign Muslims, right? Because only a tiny percentage of Muslims in the UK are British. For some reason, a lot of them are ginger. I don't know why, but you know, 99% of Muslims living in Britain are not British, and they could be deported. Or they could, if you don't want to deport them, you could just take away their rights to vote. And, you know, it looks like Reform are on track to win in 2029. So they could do something like that once they get into power. But Nigel Farage just doesn't want to. For some reason, he seems content with the decline of the nation and the decline of the nation's demographics. Now, Tommy Robinson, he seems to say some very contradictory things. I mean, he wrote, one of his books is about British demographics and how the white British population is going to be a minority by 2050. You know, that's all well and good. That is happening, and that is a problem, and it needs to be stopped. But he's also said how foreigners can integrate and become British, and how it's good to have Hindu and Sikh immigration because they integrate. And first of all, foreigners do not integrate. Integration means to become the same. And someone that is foreign is never going to be able to become the same as someone that is British. There is a spectrum of integration. Some foreigners are more integrated than others, but no foreigner is ever going to be completely integrated because they're always going to know that they're not British. And that's fine, because, well, why should we want foreigners to integrate? If they do integrate, then it dilutes what it means to be British. If they do integrate, it dilutes what it means to be British. And it just means that Britain will no longer be a proper nation because, you know, Britain is the home of the British people. And if you change the population that is Britain, it will no longer be Britain, right? British people are the English, Scottish, Welsh and Irish, people that have been living here for thousands of years. You can't just import someone from the third world, give them a Union Jack and expect them to become British. And why should they have to integrate? You know, they've got their own nationality and identity. It's not good for them to pretend to be a foreign nationality. No, like, why should they be so ashamed of who they are that they have to pretend to be British? And, like, you know, I thought that conservatives were against transgenderism, which, you know, I'm against it too, but they also seem to be in favour of transnationalityism. You know, Kemi Badenoch was saying how she no longer identifies as British and she now identifies as... Sorry, Kemi Badenoch was saying how how she no longer identifies as Nigerian and she now identifies as British. And no one in the party criticised her. But if she said that she now identified as a man, she would be criticised rightly, because this whole identify stuff is stupid. Now, moving back to Tommy Robinson, I was a little bit surprised that he didn't choose to join UKIP. I mean, you know, UKIP are an established party. He was praising Nick Tenconi, and, you know, if you are a civic nationalist, I will accept that Nick Tenconi has done quite a good job at leading UKIP. And, I mean, ultimately, I think UKIP is a dead horse at this point, and I think Tommy Robinson's come to the same conclusion. I mean, I would like to know why there wasn't some kind of merger between Advance UK and UKIP, or why, you know, maybe that's going to happen soon. I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the know on this sort of stuff, but, you know, there's also the Heritage Party that I could see merging into Advance UK, and, you know, civic nationalist unity looks like it could be about to happen around Advance UK. And on the one hand, it's a good thing, because civic nationalism is a lot better than what we've got at the moment. But on the other hand, you know, us ethno-nationalists need to get our act together. I mean, there's about 100 ethno-nationalist parties out there, and I don't think any one of them is good enough for the rest of them to merge into, which is, I mean, it's quite terrible, really. And, you know, it's like in the early 2000s, you sort of had a race, a competition between UKIP and the BNP as to which party could be the main anti-immigration party, and, you know, UKIP won. I mean, there were a lot of other reasons for that. You know, it's multiple reasons for it, but ultimately UKIP beat the BNP in becoming the main anti-immigration party, and maybe something like that will happen again. Now, if you're watching this and you want to know whether or not to join Advance UK, in my opinion, I would say no, or at least not yet. I think as long as Rupert Lowe is not in the party, there's just no point in it, really, because, you know, if Rupert Lowe were to join, then, you know, I would consider joining it myself. I think Rupert Lowe, he's not perfect. He is a civic nationalist, really, but he is saying a lot of good things, and he's the best we've got, and he's the only person, really, that would be able to challenge Reform UK and Nigel Farage. And, you know, but on the other hand, I do think it would be good for him to remain independent for now, because he can sort of be the leader of the British right across multiple parties. Like, in France, you have Jean-Luc Mélenchon as the leader of the French left, right? Like, he's the leader of one of the leftist parties, but he's sort of the de facto leader of the French left. And, you know, I think we could have that here in the UK, with Rupert Lowe leading the good elements of Reform, Advance UK, and the good elements within the Conservative Party. You know, so I don't think that he should join, at least not for now, because if you think about what this party is going to achieve, they'll probably get 3 or 4% of the vote at the next election, at best. They're not going to win any seats. And the only thing they can do is to deny Reform UK a majority government. Now, I know Reform UK are pretty rubbish, but most of the public don't know that. And for that to happen, Reform UK have to get into government. Reform UK need to expose themselves for who they really are. And the only way it will happen is if they win an election. Because, say Reform UK in 2029 were to fall just a bit short because Advance UK split the vote, and you have a left-wing government, it means it will take until the 2034 election for Reform to potentially get into government, for people to realise how rubbish they are. And look, we don't have that much time in this nation. You know, the demographics are getting worse every year. We can't afford to push back the stepping stone that is Reform UK for another 5 years. I mean, look, it is possible that Reform UK will disintegrate so much that a party like Advance UK could actually replace them. But with just Ben Habib, and even with just Rupert Lowe, I don't think they're going to be able to do that. The only way Advance UK would possibly replace Reform is if they got the right of the Conservative Party to join them. People like Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman and so on. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. Now, just to point on Tommy Robinson specifically, I would be very careful of any of his ideas and projects. He is a well-known grifter. He raises a lot of money. He raises a lot of money for supposedly good causes, then ends up spending it on himself. I mean, he raised £150,000 in legal fees only to plead guilty straight away. It's like, did you really need £150,000 of that? He also takes nice holidays in the Bahamas, and he lives in a luxury villa in Spain, and you know, multiple people around him have talked about how he has a cocaine addiction and so on. And so, in my opinion, I would just, you know, stay a step away from Tommy Robinson and what he's doing. And also because Tommy Robinson just isn't an ethno-nationalist, he still believes in this integration rubbish. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.